Hello, everyone. So today we're back with another book review, and today I will be giving you another book. And the title of our book for today is Heroes of God, and this was written by Dan and Katie Montgomery, and their husband and wife authors. This actually was given to me by Dr. Gayoba back when he was in AUP, when he was serving as the AUP president, and he gifted this to me. And it's such a blessing. It was such a blessing, especially back in the pandemic when everything was shut down, and online programs started to become a more popular thing. And when I was invited to do story time for the Central Luzon Conference Children's Ministries, this was the book that we used to base the stories that I was going to tell. I was, I think, around 9 years old, turning 10 years old that time. It was around 2020, and this book was so helpful to me when I was invited by Dr. Josie Calera, who was then in the children's ministries in CLC. What I love about this book is it's the stories of different people. Some of them are very historical figures and prominent figures. They're all true stories, and what I love about it is it's painted in a way, it's put into words in such a beautiful, simple way that it's really for kids. So what I love about it, it's just so plain, and you can understand the story really well. And some of my favorite stories here. Well, first of all, if you're going to ask me what's my favorite story from here, it's really Bathildes. She was a kidnapped queen, actually. She was kidnapped from her homeland, yet with her faith in God and, her trust that one day that God would see her and he would protect her, one day she became queen of the nation that kidnapped her. So that is really something. One also of my favorite is the story behind the hymn Amazing Grace. We all know the song Amazing Grace, but this book gave me the desire also to know more about the stories behind the hymns, because Amazing Grace was really written in such a powerful way by John Newton back in the days when he was a sailor, and one day they had a really big storm on the ship. This is a very concise version of the story, but they had a really big storm on the ship, and he was really in a desperate situation. And then at that time, he was a sailor, and he was a slave trader. He was helping transport slaves across different countries. And at that time, when it was storming, conscience got to him, and he remembered the times that he was with his mother back when he was a child, and he would sing songs with her and learn the Bible with her, and it all reflected to him that he was reflecting on what happened, like why did I drift away from God. And after the storm, he was saved, actually, even though all of them were wet, the boat almost sank, but God protected them. And after the storm, he was converted. He no longer became a slave trader. He became a evangelist. And it was during this time that he penned the words to Amazing Grace. And if you really listen to the words of the song, you can really see how the story makes sense, because he was saved by grace. He was saved by God's amazing grace. So that's one of my favorite stories too. A couple more stories, and I know you will find this in the CLC story time. I told this story already, but for Sojourner Truth, she was a slave, and actually, fun fact about her: in the later part of her life, she was converted into Adventism, and I believe we have a statue in one of our universities of her as Sojourner Truth. She fought for her rights as a Black African American woman in a slave country, and she fought for her rights and for her child's rights to get her child out of a situation that she almost lost her child. Another one was Dorothea Dix. Dorothea Dix campaigned for the better facilities of mental health patients, like people who are in the mental hospital, because back then the conditions were really not it was really not sanitary. People were getting sick, so she campaigned for those, and she really asked God to help her to provide the funds and give power and knowledge on how to do things to make these patients let these patients have a better taste at life, even though of their conditions. And one last thing, one of my also favorites is Louis Braille. Louis Braille was a young blind child in France, and he had an accident, and that blinded him at, I think, around 2 or 3 years old. And when it happened, he really loved to read books. And at that time, when he was blind, he would go to his friend, which was actually a minister, and he would smell the books in his collection. And he really longed to read books, even though he was blind. And one day, he really prayed to God and he asked him, Lord, I want to read. Give us blind people a way to read, even though we cannot see. And he was the one who invented the Braille. And Braille is a series of raised dots, and it has it has a specific code each letter. So when a blind person can read it, he can read the raised dots on the paper. And God gave him the wisdom to create such a meaningful thing for blind people to be able to read, even they cannot see. And you can really see that God really endows wisdom if only we ask. Like, Louis Braille was a 15-year-old kid, and he was just a teenager, yet God used him to bring such a massive amount of blessing to all these blind people around the world that we still use that same Braille system ever since he invented it. So God is really so powerful to use even the most unassuming people to make a difference in this world. So yeah, that's Heroes of God by Dan and Katie Montgomery, and I recommend this. Check this out, especially if you have young kids and you want them to learn more about these different Christians that changed the world and gave us hope that we can also be used by God if we only ask him to. So I hope you check that out, and keep reading good books, and see you in the next video. Bye.